how to paint a couple's tropical sunset side by side painting. You'll need two canvases for this. I'm using two 11 by 14 inch canvases, or if you're doing it alone, you can do this on a 16 by 20 canvas. You'll need ultramarine blue, medium magenta, dioxazine purple, quinacridone magenta, cad yellow light hue, Mars black, titanium white. As for the brushes, you'll need a 3/4 inch flat, a number 12 flat, which is about a 1/2 inch wide, a number 4 round, which is optional and you'll see why, a 10-0 liner, and a filbert. If you were to shorten these brushes and just use the 3, I would use the 3/4 inch, the 12, and the liner. Possibly you could omit the filbert, but I like to use filberts to paint clouds. So first you're going to do is draw the horizon line, and I am using my ruler to measure 1/3 of the way up the canvas, about 4.5 inches. Then I'm going to have the canvases meet together to draw the horizon line. So that horizon line is 4.5 inches up. Make sure that your canvases are side by side when you do this so that the line will meet up. This will be very helpful when we do the painting together. And then I used a solo cup for the sun. This is the large side of the solo cup, so the opening, and I'm tracing that circle so that half the circle goes on one canvas, half goes on the other, and it's about halfway above the horizon line. So I drew a semicircle. Next, you're going to load your palettes. You're going to need titanium white and cad yellow light hue. I'm going to call these colors white and yellow to make this easier. And dip your number 12 flat brush. It's the brush that's about a 1/2 inch wide and it's flat. And you're going to dip it in the water, pat it dry, and grab both of the white and the yellow, about equal amounts, and you're going to paint the sun. So I didn't mix the colors all the way on the canvas, on the palette. I like to have the colors blend on the canvas. So I'm letting the yellow and the white mix together to make a light yellow. And I'm basically just painting the sun. So you're going to paint your side of the sun and your partner is going to paint their side of the sun. Obviously, I'm doing this alone. So you're going to have to look at whatever side you're doing and paint what you see on that side, and then your partner's going to paint what he or she sees on their side. Essentially, it's the same exact thing, but we're kind of mirroring each other. So it'll be fun. And then after you paint the sun, we're going to go in and do the reflection in the water. So I usually wait till the end to do the water. But we have the yellow ready and it's ready to go, so might as well use it. The water makes a triangle shape, so it makes like an upside down triangle, and I'm going to paint left and right strokes, and it's going to get thinner as it goes down. So it's going to form an upside down triangle. Doesn't have to be a perfect geometric upside down triangle. This is a reflection, so there's no perfection in it. So the same color combination, the same yellow and white. Let it mix on the canvas, left and right strokes. You will find with the couples painting that your personality will show through as well as your partner's personality. So if there are differences in the way that you two are painting, embrace it, enjoy it. That's the point of the couples paintings, is for it to be one whole design, but two unique people together to make one whole painting. So that is okay. All right. The next color we're going to use is medium magenta and titanium white. My brush is rinsed off and I grabbed the pink and the white. So I'm going to call medium magenta pink. And I am going to start out by painting a ring around the sun. So this is the only part where we're going to do a ring. We're just doing this to cut in on that circle because the sky is all horizontal strokes, but it's kind of hard to do horizontal strokes when you're trying to get close to this circle. So I'm going to use the full width of the brush to paint a ring around the sun. Dip in equal amounts of white and pink, and then your partner will do the same. And we're not going to go out any further than the width of that brush. So it's about a 1/2 inch brush. The ring is about a 1/2 inch. Okay, so now we're going to go horizontally. So this sun is bright in the middle and the sky is going to gradually get darker as we get towards the edges and the top of the canvas. So we want to keep this same combo of the white and magenta. Try to use a little bit more white than magenta to get that pink to be nice and bright because it's only going to get darker as we go out. So we really want that glow by the sun. And I'm doing left and right strokes, and I want to kind of disguise that ring because the purpose of that ring was to cut in on that sun, but we don't want to see the ring. We want it to look like it's all horizontal now. So I'm still using that number 12 brush. I'm still grabbing the pink and the white, a little bit more white than pink, and doing the horizontal strokes. As far as how far out to go, I'd say about halfway to the middle part of your horizon line. If you're looking at your canvas, the middle part of your canvas, it goes up pretty far, about halfway. And then of course the colors are blending together. It doesn't have to be blended all the way. So we're going to switch to a larger brush because we have a lot of sky to cover. This is the 3/4 inch flat brush. And I am going to grab just the pink, just the medium magenta, because I am going to let the sky gradually get darker. So no white, just pink. And you can see the color difference of the pink not mixed with the white. And I want to kind of slightly blend it. I'm going to use the tip of my brush just to make these little kind of line things in the sky. It kind of helps it blend a little bit. We are doing wet on wet blending. That white pink combo that's closest to the sun is still wet. So I want to kind of paint over it. And when you paint over it, that color blends naturally. But you want to kind of go slow. You don't want to let that pink take over too much. So you want to just kind of lightly brush over the areas of the lighter pink so that it blends. Okay. And then you're going to go almost to the edge of the canvas, not quite all the way. Okay, so we can already see how it's lighter and it's starting to get just a tad darker. I'm going to put just a little bit more of that magenta on my palette there, and I'm going to bring this out just a bit more. I did mention you can do this singly on the 16 by 20 canvas. I actually originally did this painting on the 16 by 20, so I know it works. Just make sure when you do the horizon line that it's a third, so it wouldn't be 4.5, it would be a different number. Whatever 16 divided by 3 is, then you could measure the third of the horizon line. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Okay, so next color is the quinacridone magenta, and I am going to rinse and dry my brush. As you can see, I did that really fast there. Rinsed my color off the brush, dried it, grabbed the quinacridone magenta, and so I'm going to add that to the painting and lightly blend it over the pink. So I'm going to brush over it lightly. The quinacridone is darker, obviously. It takes over fast. It's a very brilliant color. So you want to kind of be very gentle as you go over the medium magenta so that it doesn't take over. But you still want to get it to blend. So I'm going to paint over it just lightly. And I can use the side of my brush, the tip of it, just to make the little lines, to make it blend. I'm not going for like a perfect blend. it's a sunset. There's no exact science with painting sunsets. It's just kind of your colors may be doing something different from mine, and your partner's is probably doing something different too. So you're going to have to embrace it. Okay. To help it blend a bit more, you can try grabbing the medium magenta. So you can see that I grabbed that on my brush, double load it with the medium magenta, and that'll help it blend a little bit more too. So I'm going to do this side. And I ended up going all the way to the edge of the canvas here. I had some space on the canvas on the right, but this one I didn't have space, and that's okay. I'm going to paint and do the same thing. I'm going to blend the quinacridone with the medium magenta. I'm going to go up, blend it upwards. So you can kind of see how that looks with the glowing sun, with the light pink in the middle, and then it gradually gets darker. We still have one color after this. We're going to do dioxazine purple, which is a very dark purple. So that color is next. You kind of have to prepare for that. And then continue adding medium magenta and the quinacridone. So double loading it, painting it upwards. I'm not going to go all the way to the top of the sky. I'm going to leave much of probably about 3 inches up on the top blank with the white. Then I'm going to grab the dioxazine purple. This is that very dark purple. And I'm not going to rinse my brush, just leaving the magenta colors on the brush because that'll help it blend. Dioxazine is a very dark purple, so you want to go in on this slow. The far right edge of the sky is this dark purple, and same with the other side. The far left side is the dark purple, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I kind of lightly blend it with the quinacridone. Do the wet on wet blending, just brush over it very lightly. Use the tip of the brush to do the little line thing in the sky to help it blend. And then you can grab more quinacridone on your brush. So you can double load it with the quinacridone and the dioxazine to help it blend a little bit better. And then this whole top of the sky is going to be that dark purple. So I loaded my palette with medium magenta, and I'm double loading with the medium magenta and dioxazine purple because the medium magenta blends a little bit better with the dioxazine than the quinacridone magenta, so that's why I did that. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the dioxazine and double loaded it with just a little bit of the medium magenta to get it to kind of be a smooth transition because it is a dark purple. But it creates that contrasting effect, that glow sun that your eye just gets drawn to because of the way the yellow and the purple contrast. So that's the point of the dark purple. So as you can see, I'm painting all the way to the top of the sky. I'm grabbing dioxazine, I'm grabbing medium magenta, so you can see there's some streaks of the magenta in there, and that's done on purpose. And I'm just doing the left and right strokes. A little tip is to not add too much paint to your brush as you're doing this. Don't slop on the paint too thick. It's a lot harder to blend colors when you add too much paint to your brush, so just a little bit as you go and reload, and then smooth out your strokes too. You don't want to see any harsh stroke lines. You don't want to see the canvas below. Obviously you're covering up all the white canvas, but sometimes you can see the stroke still because the brush pushes the paint as you do the stroke, and then you can see the canvas. So you want to just kind of brush over that lightly. That sort of thing just comes with practice and knowing how to do your brush stroke so that it covers and you don't see the stroke. But it helps if you don't load too much paint on the tip of your brush and just brush over it lightly. So I'm doing the same thing on the other side, so it's kind of the mirror effect. But your colors may vary slightly. You'll notice that the left side ended up looking slightly different than the right, and that's okay. I mentioned that your personality is going to show through with this painting because it's going to look different from your partner's, and one's not going to be better than the other. It's just going to be one whole painting put together. but two different styles. So I'm grabbing that magenta, still grabbing that dioxazine, painting to the top, filling up this top area. I'm going to change things up just a little bit here and add the quinacridone magenta in here and blend that up into the sky. So there's just a little flash of this quinacridone in there. And you can do the same thing. I'm going to actually just kind of push it over on this side too, just to make it look slightly different on the other side. If your sky looks a little streaky, mine does, because these were hard colors to blend together. There was like no way I could have made it a perfect blend. The clouds really help to kind of disguise that. So just keep in mind that that is going to be a little magical piece that's going to happen later on. So don't get frustrated. Take a break if you need to. Step back, look at your painting from far away, and put your paintings together to see how it looks. So I'm just kind of touch it up, add a few more strokes of that quinacridone in here, and then go on to the next step. So the next step, I always like to do this, especially if I have some dark areas in my sky, is to do the stars. So this is just a regular toothbrush dipped in water, a little bit of water, and titanium white, and I'm just kind of splattering the white just on the top where that dark area is. So the sun is setting, there's dark sky way up high, and we may see a few little stars. The next step is the clouds, and I'm using a filbert brush because it has a rounded tip to it, and I find that filberts are easy for clouds. So if you have a different brush that you like to use for clouds, you can do that, or you can try the filbert. So we're going to start with the heart cloud. This is the easy one. And you're just going to paint a regular heart shape, have it meet up in the middle, put your canvases together and have it meet, and then fill it in the middle. So there's only a little bit of white on the tip of my brush, and I'm painting these little tiny circle strokes. And what's happening is it's becoming a see-through thing. So there's not a lot of white. It's not a thick layer of white. We can see through, and we can see that color underneath. Okay. That pink is not dry all the way. It is blending slightly with the white. If it was dry, even the fact that I only have a little bit of white creates kind of a dry brush effect, and we can still see the pink underneath. So that's how it makes it look kind of see-through. But this cloud is not a white cloud, it's sunset, so it would have some darker colors to it. So I'm going to dip the tip of my filbert brush in dioxazine purple. When I do clouds, I like to start with white first and then do the darker colors. That's just how I do it. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do little circle strokes. And by doing the circle strokes, it's going to make this heart look fluffy. So doing the little tiny circle strokes, again, we want it to be translucent, see-through. It's not a lot of paint. It's not thick. It's very thin. It's dry. And little tiny circle strokes, and all of a sudden we have a fluffy heart. So maybe some of the edges are kind of fluffy too. I grabbed a little bit more white in there. I'm going to do maybe some fluffy white little circles on the top. I know the angle of the camera is not the greatest right here, so I do apologize. But that's it for the heart cloud. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to load some more white because I'm going to need some nice fresh white for this. And I'm going to do a basic cloud. So up here, I'm going to do one right here, dipped in the white first, and I'm going to do the top part of the cloud. So I'm doing the circle strokes and I'm forming the top kind of shape of the cloud, how it would look on the top. And it's turning purple because the purple underneath it is not dry, and that is ideal for this. So I'm letting it blend with the purple that's already on the canvas, and I'm doing the circle stroke thing to form the shape of the cloud here. So the bottom part of the cloud is kind of flat. Maybe it's arced just a little bit on the bottom. It kind of goes out to a point on the bottom. And then I'm going to grab the dioxazine purple and I'm going to do another layer of that circle thing. But I want the top part, kind of the silver lining part of the cloud, to stay kind of white. So that's what I did. I left that kind of white. Okay, I'm going to do the cloud again. So start with the white, form the top part of the cloud first, then do the circle stroke thing as you kind of work your way down to form the bottom part of the cloud. So it kind of arcs up just a little bit on the bottom, and then it kind of there's like a streak of line on the tip, the bottom right corner and the bottom left corner. Okay, and then you grab the dioxazine purple and do another layer of the little circle stroke thing. Okay, grab the white first, do the circle stroke thing to form the top part of the cloud. The clouds that are closer to the sun are flatter and smaller to create depth. And then some down here, we may only have like little tick marks of clouds. We wouldn't see they wouldn't be these big fluffy things. They'd be little puffs. So by puffs, I mean like little dash lines of clouds. And then as you go higher in the sky, the clouds are larger. So really the only two colors I'm using for these clouds are the dioxazine and the white. Again, I start with the white, then I add the purple on top, and it just kind of blends itself by doing that circle stroke. It gets a layer of that purple mixed with the white to create it, make it look fluffy and kind of 3D-ish. But that's all I'm doing. And then, of course, I'm not rinsing my brush between adding the next color. So when I go on the next cloud, yeah, there's still dioxazine on my brush, but I'm grabbing the white and starting with the white. But that's okay because it creates a unique shade of that purple and white color. So I went back in and added the dioxazine on top of this cloud that I didn't add dioxazine to. We're going to do one more cloud right here. Since I had a lot of purple on my brush, I guess I started with purple then and then I added the white. So you can do that too. You can start with the darker and then do the lighter. I just like to start with the lighter and then go darker. Did a little bit more purple little strokes on the heart right there. And then that's it for the clouds. Maybe a few more tick marks in there. And we'll do one more cloud up here. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to go back to our number 12 flat brush, that 1/2 inch wide flat brush, and Mars Black. We're going to start the silhouette of the land. So, my brush is actually it's not slightly, it's wet. I didn't rinse it off. So to get my black to be just a tiny bit watered down, I'm going to start about 4 fingers up. I'm going to draw this land with the tip of my brush, and it's going to go all the way under the sun to make like a slither. So that tip of the brush is going to paint just a line right there on the horizon line. That's as thin as the land gets. And then I'm going to fill it in solid. Again, the black is just a tad bit watered down because my brush is wet. That helps the black to flow a bit. And then leave that land just a slither right under the sun. And the bottom of the land curves a bit. So it curves down to make it look like the land is kind of coming closer to the point of view of the viewer. So same thing, about 4 fingers high for the land. It goes down diagonally and it goes to just a slither right under the sun. So I'm not really painting under the horizon line for that slither of line. It's like right on that horizon line, if that makes sense. And then fill it in and then curve the land down so that it looks like it's coming towards us. Then you can go in and add just a little bit of reflection line in there. Don't go crazy or anything, just a few horizontal strokes here and there. That'll kind of help when we do the water. It gives that area a little bit of black. Okay, so we're going to do the palm trees next. And this is the 10-0 liner, a very necessary brush because these palm trees are itty bitty, tiny, way in the background. So right here, they're not covering the sun. They're like right next to the sun. Just doing the trunk, and I'm going to do the little lines that are sticking up. And I'm not even going to do the little palm tree, palm leaves. I'm just going to paint the lines. So to make it easy, because these are far away, they're tiny, they're shorter than the sun. Okay, that's the 10-0 liner. It makes it easy to paint very thin lines. So do the trunk of the tree first, and then do the little palms that are hanging down next. And then, so we're going to continue this palm tree thing, and the palm trees are going to get a little bit bigger as they go up the land, maybe assuming that those palm trees are closer. We don't know. So the same thing, just the trunk first, then the palms, but it's still not big enough to have to see the little palm leaves. That would be kind of tedious to paint all those little tiny palm leaves on these tiny palm trees. And then over here on the higher part of the land, we'll assume that since this is closer to the viewer, we're going to make it a larger palm tree. So do the trunk, do the lines, and then you can go in and fill in the little tiny palm leaves. Or you can do just the lines if you don't want to do all the little extra lines of the palm leaves. It's up to you. So I'm going to kind of mirror that idea and do the larger palm trees over here. It's up to you if you want to do an uneven amount of palm trees. Maybe your partner loves doing palm trees, but you don't. So maybe you only have one tree on your side and your partner has like 20 trees. I don't even know if it would look good with that many trees. So it's up to you how you would like to do it. The trunk of the pop tree, I forgot to mention this, it's slightly thicker on the bottom and then it gets thinner. Okay, so we're going to do the water next, and we need our lovely 3/4 inch flat brush back. It's all dried off, rinsed, ready to go, and this water is going to start out with ultramarine blue on the far right side, and on your partner's for the left canvas, the far left side. And I'm going to use that full width of the brush, and I'm going to do left and right strokes, and I'm going to get as close to that land as possible. I'm going to do it all the way down. So this whole area is a good solid ultramarine blue. Notice I'm using the full width of the brush, but I'm also turning it on its side. And when you turn it on its side, you can cut in closer to the land, but you can also get a different kind of varied stroke with the water. So if you turn it on its side, you get that thinner line thing going on, and then the full width, you get the thicker line. But really, we're not worried about reflections yet. That's going to come later. Just get it filled in nice and solid. We are going to change colors here, so in a little bit I'm going to add more dioxazine purple to my palette because this blue is going to blend into dioxazine, and then that dioxazine is actually going to blend to magenta. So that's kind of a foreshadowing of what's going on here. Just like when we did in the sky, we blended some colors. We're kind of doing the opposite way. We're going from dark to light in the middle. Okay, so dioxazine purple is the next color. Do not rinse your brush, just load it with the purple and paint over much of that ultramarine blue so that it blends a bit. This purple is also a dark color like the blue, so it doesn't stand out. It blends nicely. So you want to get pretty close to that reflection line. You do not want to paint over that reflection line at all. So get kind of close to it, but there's still going to be, let's say about maybe an inch, 2-inch gap between that, where that purple is, where that between that and the yellow. So there needs to be some blank space there. So I'm painting the purple over the blue. I'm not going to the yellow. I'm leaving a gap because that gap is going to be for magenta here in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm cutting in on that line, the land, getting it as close as possible to the land. Painting over a lot of that blue too. But we don't want to completely cover the blue. We want to still see the blue. It's just there's some patches of dioxazine purple that are covering a little bit of that blue. My colors here on the camera got kind of skewed a bit. I'm not sure what happened, but it corrects itself in just a minute here. So just bear with me. The next color we're going to use is the medium magenta. No rinsing the brush. Grab the medium magenta and continue on getting as close as possible now to that reflection. So I'm going to paint all the way to that reflection line, but I'm not going to paint over it yet. I'm going to leave it there because that reflection needs to be bright. I don't want to cover it. If I cover it, I have to go back over it and make it bright again, and I don't want to do that. So obviously it's going to be kind of hard to get that close to it because there's going to be some white space left, and that's okay. We're going to fix that in just a bit. So do that medium magenta. Maybe there's some streaks of magenta over on that blue and purple part. That's okay. And then get as close as possible. Your reflection line should form that upside down triangle. And then cut in on the horizon line using the tip of the brush. I find when you use the tip of the brush on its, so not the full width on its side, but the tip of the brush to create the thinner line, it gives you more control in painting these strokes so you can see all the thin lines. It kind of makes it easier, especially when you want to get as close as possible to that reflection area, versus if you use the brush at a different angle, it wouldn't get nearly as close. So yes, there is some white canvas still under there, and we're going to keep getting closer and closer. We're actually going to paint just a little bit of the magenta over the reflection here in just a second. But right now I'm just getting these strokes to kind of smooth out a little bit, covering up as much white area as possible that's left in that small area. I'm going to switch to the number 12 flat brush, so that 1/2 inch wide flat brush. just medium magenta on my brush, and I'm going to make just these very subtle pink strokes, the medium magenta, just a few lines that are covering the yellow. So the yellow area has been forbidden up until this point. Now you're allowed to paint over that yellow area slightly. And actually, so if there's any white canvas area showing through where that triangle shape kind of forms on the edges of the reflection, then that's your chance to go there with that little 12 brush and just to paint over with the lines of the medium magenta. So I'm going to continue on with this number 12 flat brush, and I loaded my palette with titanium white. I'm going to add some white strokes over the forbidden area, that yellow area. Just a few white lines here and there, especially on the edges there. So now it really kind of covers any blank spots that might be left right there. Okay, and since this is a sunset, we have some sparkling, glistening water here. So I'm going to do white lines, little white lines all over here. Just don't go too crazy because we don't want too much white, but you can see what's happening here. I'm doing the white over the area that I did the magenta in, and it's creating the reflection in the water. Okay, so I'm going to continue on doing the white lines, left and right strokes very lightly. I'm holding my brush very lightly here. I'm not pressing it too hard. These strokes are thin. I'm using the tip of my brush. They're not thick strokes. And I'm just very lightly, very subtly, especially over the dark area. We don't want that white to blend and make a gray, or we don't really want it to blend with the blue either. But just very, very lightly do the little dash lines all over your water area. I'm actually going to go silent here for just a bit as I fill up the rest of this area. This step takes quite a bit of time to do. It's very relaxing, very pretty, but it takes a bit of time. So I'm going to be quiet now until I finish up all my little white lines. Optional. Add a little bit of cad yellow light in there just on the outside of the edges, just to get a little subtle pop of yellow in there. Gives it a nice color variation. Again, optional, which is something that I added in there. This next step is also optional, but I'm going to show you how to get a little pop of white sort of glow on the land, and maybe some of the palm tree is reflecting some white. So this is a number 4 round brush. This is the only time I'm using that number 4 round brush, and I am using it with the titanium white, and I'm just painting a slither of white on the land, a slither of white on the trunks of the tree, so it would show on the right side because the sun is hitting that part. Actually, I'm gonna go back to my liner here because this is a tiny area, and I'm gonna do the white parts on some of the leaves, and that white is a little bit too strong for my liking, so I'm gonna go back with the black and just go over it there a bit so that it's not too strong. I just want a slither of white showing. It gives some pop of color to your silhouette. It kind of helps when so that tree is against a dark color, that purple, and you can't really see the black, so it kind of helps it to pop a bit. Totally optional. If you don't like that style, skip it. It's your painting. I'm going to do the same thing on the trees over here on the right canvas. Just a pop of color. And then, of course, if you go crazy with the white, you can always go back with the black and blend it back. So I'm going to blend the land back just a bit here. It turns a kind of grayish with the black and the white. So maybe we can see a little bit of depth in that land, maybe a little bit of texture in there. And then with the liner, I'm just going to do just a squiggle line of black reflection in the water from the palm trees. So just like a squiggly line right under where that palm tree would be reflecting in the water. It's so subtle you don't even notice it. Okay. For the sailboat, I lied. I used my 4 round again for the sailboat. So if you're not using that 4 round at all, you can actually use any brush for this. You can use the liner for this. But I'm doing the sailboat silhouette, and I do not have a traceable for this sailboat. If you don't feel like free drawing this sailboat right now, you can always get a piece of chalk and draw it on first. You can look at Google and find a sailboat silhouette and just print it out and put it on your painting. I just kind of winged it. So I did the bottom part first. And then, of course, this is the couples painting. So half the sailboat is on one side, half is on the other. And then I'm filling it in with the solid black. So I did the bottom first. And then, of course, if you don't want to do the sailboat, the painting looks beautiful as a standalone without the silhouette of the sailboat. So, again, your painting, your rules. You can change it up however you like. You can even get creative. You can do not one sailboat in the middle, but you can do a sailboat on each side. So each of your paintings has a whole sailboat. So I did the big sail is on the right here. And then I'm altering between that 4 round and the liner. So the very tiny pointed areas I would use the liner for, because the 4 round won't get it to go to much of a point there. And I'm using my liner to really define the shape. So I'm painting the edges, basically just outlining the silhouette to make it nice and sharp. Okay, so the sail on this side, I start with the little bump on the bottom, and it's going to curve up, but it's going to be shorter. So it's kind of a triangle that bends to the right, and then fill it in. I'm going to go silent here again. Basically, all I'm doing is using the liner to define the shape, outline the edges, make it look nice and sharp. There is a reflection of the sailboat underneath, so I know my hand is covering up what I'm doing here, but I'm just using the brush to paint little horizontal strokes right under the boat to create a reflection. It's not a solid black, just a few black strokes in the water. And we are finished. This painting has come to its conclusion. There's definitely a lot of steps in this painting, but it is a gorgeous painting with two different personalities put together to make one whole piece, and I cannot wait to see your painting. So please share it on the Facebook page, tag me, share it on Pinterest. I'll try to go look at the Pinterest pins to see yours. Email it to me. I can't wait to see it. Thank you for watching.